It is time to talk about a good REST API and the one that you are tasked to build. In this video, I review the expected API to be exposed by your application. You know already that in REST, a combination of URL paths and HTTP methods define what actions can you take on what resource, but there's a little more to be defined. To define a RESTful application, you must provide what paths your application handles, what HTTP method each path supports, what does the combination of path and method do to the data, and finally, what do you expect in the request and what does the server returns in the response. For example, the method get on slash returns a list of movie summaries. It receives an empty request and it returns an array of summary objects. That looks almost complete. What is lacking is the definition of the summary objects. What is a summary? Well, a summary is a JSON object with the following properties: the ID, name, year, studio, genre, rating, runtime, director, and description of the movie, and the number of reviews and average score in the reviews for the movie. If you want people to use your service, you must inform them what they must send and what they are expected to receive. Additionally, you also need to provide the headers your application expects and any other information that your service needs to complete a request. This is particularly important when you deal with authentication, since authentication tokens are commonly sent as headers in the request. Let's revisit the movie application to define an API that makes sense. On the slash path, you can execute only two operations, get and post. Get returns the summaries I explained before. Now, the post adds a movie. The request must be a JSON object with the movie properties: name, year, studio, genre, rating, runtime, director, and description. There is no ID, since that is provided by the database, and thus the service should at the very least inform you of the assigned ID. Then, the response of the post on slash returns the ID of the inserted movie as a string. In previous versions of the application, I used to return the entire movie object. This is also possible, but it adds a lot of unnecessary complexity to the application with little in return. The slash movie ID paths refer to operations on a particular movie. Get should return the movie. As such, it has an empty request, and the response is the JSON object of the movie, with reviews included as an array of JSON objects. Put should update the movie. Then, the request should have the movie object. The properties required are the same as in the post/slash method. The ID of the movie to modify is provided in the path. The response can be empty. I like to return a single OK string, but since it's not relevant, then nothing can be returned. But wait, what happens if there's an error? Well, there are the HTTP status codes. I think that 404 can be used whenever I try to get, update, or delete something that doesn't exist, and 500 can be used when the database fails. And with that, I got errors covered. Let's move on. Delete should delete the movie along with its reviews, empty request and response. The only data I need is the ID that is provided in the URL path. Now, the post inside a movie. This operation adds a new review. The request contains a JSON object of the review with the attributes name, date, score, and description. The response is the ID of the inserted review. And now, the operations for reviews. The get /movie ID /review ID gets a particular review of a movie. The request is empty, and the response is the review object. The put /movie ID /review ID updates a review. The request receives a JSON object with the same properties of a post on /movie ID, which is a review object. The response is empty. And then, the delete deletes a review with empty request and response. And that defines the entire application. Inside the course files, there's a text file with the same information for your reference. Review it. The HTML5 client bundled in the course make use of this API. If your application is compliant with this definition, then you can test it using the HTML client. When you are ready to continue, go to the next and final video for this week.